Hello. As a physical therapist, I see many seniors striving for active lives. But some common exercises, ones you might think are perfectly safe, could be silently damaging your hips. What if the very movements meant to help are actually wearing them down? Stay with me. What I'm about to share is crucial for your long-term mobility. Many believe that any physical activity is a step in the right direction, especially as we age. While movement is undeniably vital, this general belief can inadvertently lead to problems when specific vulnerabilities aren't considered. For seniors, the "just move" mantra, without an understanding of how to move safely, can sometimes do more harm than good. It's not about discouraging activity, but about encouraging smart activity. The desire to stay fit and independent is commendable, but it needs to be channeled through exercises that genuinely support, rather than unknowingly strain, our bodies over time. The hip joint, a marvel of engineering, is a ball and socket joint designed for a wide range of motion and weight-bearing. It's cushioned by cartilage, supported by strong muscles and ligaments. However, with age, this cartilage naturally thins, bones can become less dense, and the body's repair mechanisms slow down. This doesn't mean hips are destined to fail, but it does mean they become more susceptible to wear and tear from improper stresses. Understanding this inherent vulnerability is the first step towards protecting these crucial joints for a lifetime of comfortable movement and activity. The drive to maintain independence and an active lifestyle is a powerful motivator for many seniors. This often leads to seeking out exercise routines online, from general fitness magazines or even from well-meaning friends. The issue is that these popular routines are rarely tailored to the specific biomechanical needs or pre-existing conditions of an older individual's hip joint. What might be beneficial for a younger person or someone without hip concerns can inadvertently place damaging forces on a senior's hip, turning a positive intention into a potential source of future pain or limitation. Think of cumulative wear, like a slow, steady drip of water on a stone. A single drop seems insignificant, but over time, it erodes the surface. Similarly, small, seemingly harmless movements, if performed incorrectly, or if they are biomechanically unsuitable for your hips, can, when repeated day after day, week after week, lead to significant wear and tear. This isn't about a sudden injury, but a gradual breakdown of the joint's integrity, often going unnoticed until pain or stiffness becomes a persistent companion. This silent progression is what makes it so insidious. So how do we spot these villains, disguised as helpful exercises in our daily routines? It's often not the exercise itself that's inherently bad, but rather its application in the context of an aging hip, or when performed with a form that doesn't respect the joint's limits. Many popular movements, praised for their general fitness benefits, can have hidden downsides when hip health isn't the primary consideration. The challenge lies in recognizing these nuances, understanding that what benefits one part of the body or one demographic might inadvertently stress another, particularly a vulnerable joint like the hip. This understanding is precisely why we're here today. It's not to instill fear, but to empower you with knowledge. By shedding light on specific movements that can be problematic, and more importantly, why they can be problematic for seniors' hips, you gain the ability to make more informed choices. The goal is to transform your approach to exercise from one of hopeful guessing to one of confident, joint-friendly action. Soon, we'll delve into the first common culprit, and you'll begin to see how subtle shifts in awareness can make a profound difference to your hip health. Let's consider a very common exercise, the squat. It's often touted as a fantastic functional movement, and indeed, when done correctly, it can be. Many seniors incorporate squats into their routines, aiming to strengthen their legs and glutes, believing it will help with daily activities like getting up from a chair. You see it recommended widely, from fitness classes to online videos, often presented as a one-size-fits-all solution for lower body strength. The perception is that if you're squatting, you're doing something good for your legs and overall mobility, which is generally true, But the devil is in the details, especially for hip health. The issue with squats for some seniors, particularly deep squats performed with excessive forward lean of the torso, or when the knees cave inward, knee valgus, is the immense pressure it can place on the hip joint. When you lean too far forward, you shift the center of gravity, and the hip flexors and anterior hip structures can become impinged or overworked. If the knees collapse inward, this often indicates weak hip abductors and can create abnormal shearing forces across the hip joint, potentially irritating the cartilage or surrounding soft tissues. This isn't about avoiding squats altogether, but about recognizing these harmful patterns. How can you tell if your squatting technique might be harming your hips? Listen to your body. Do you feel a pinching sensation in the front of your hip during or after squatting? Is there an audible click or pop? Perhaps you've noticed a gradual decrease in your hip's range of motion, or a feeling that the joint is catching or locking up at certain points in the movement. These aren't just normal aches of exercise. They can be early warning signs that the way you're performing the squat is placing undue stress on the hip joint, potentially accelerating wear and tear or aggravating an existing condition. It's important to note that squats aren't universally bad. For younger individuals with healthy joints and good biomechanics, or for those performing highly modified versions like box squats to a safe height under professional guidance, the squat can be a safe and effective exercise. The problem arises when generic squat advice is applied to seniors without considering individual hip anatomy, existing conditions like arthritis, or subtle form errors that accumulate stress over time. The key difference lies in the personalization and the acute awareness of how the movement feels specifically in your hips. I recall a common scenario where individuals eager to maintain leg strength start a generic squatting program. Initially, they might feel some muscle soreness, which they attribute to working out. However, over weeks or months, a persistent ache develops deep in the hip or groin. They might find it harder to put on socks or experience pain when standing up after sitting. Often, investigation reveals that their squat form, particularly going too deep without adequate control or with significant forward lean, was gradually irritating the hip joint, turning a well-intentioned effort into a source of chronic discomfort. The purpose of highlighting this isn't to make you afraid of squatting, but to encourage a more mindful and informed approach. Understanding why a certain way of squatting can be detrimental empowers you to seek out safer modifications or alternative exercises. It's about shifting from simply doing an exercise to understanding its impact on your body, especially on vulnerable areas like the hips. This awareness is the foundational step towards protecting your joints while still pursuing an active and healthy lifestyle, ensuring your efforts are truly beneficial and sustainable in the long run. Another exercise frequently seen in routines for seniors is the lying side leg lift, intended to strengthen the hip abductor muscles, which are crucial for stability and walking. It seems simple enough. Lie on your side, lift your top leg. People perform these hoping to tone their outer thighs and improve balance. Its appeal lies in its apparent ease and the fact it can be done anywhere without equipment. The belief is that by lifting the leg, you're directly targeting and strengthening those important hip muscles. However, the way this exercise is often performed can be surprisingly problematic for the hip. The danger often lies in using momentum rather than controlled muscular effort, or by allowing the pelvis to rock back and forth. When you swing the leg up too high or too fast, or if you roll your hips backward to gain extra height, you're often not purely using the target hip abductor muscles. Instead, you might be engaging your lower back muscles, or worse, creating a pinching sensation, impingement, in the hip joint itself as the femur bumps against the acetabulum. This uncontrolled movement can also put undue stress on the tendons around the hip, such as the gluteus medius tendon, potentially leading to tendinopathy. Sometimes individuals performing this exercise might feel a burn in the hip area and assume it's a sign of an effective workout. while muscle fatigue is normal, a sharp, pinching pain or a deep ache that persists isn't. Similarly, if you're pushing the leg so high that you feel an intense stretch in the front of the hip or even the lower back, you might be overstretching certain structures or more likely compensating with other body parts. This misinterpretation of bodily signals can lead to continued performance of a movement that is actually irritating the joint or surrounding tissues rather than strengthening them. There's a crucial difference between promoting healthy, controlled mobility in the hip and inadvertently creating or exacerbating instability. The goal of exercises like side leg lifts should be to strengthen the muscles that stabilize the hip within its normal, healthy range of motion. When performed with excessive range, momentum, or poor pelvic control, you might be pushing the joint beyond its stable limits or creating microtrauma. This is especially concerning for seniors whose joints may already have some laxity or arthritic changes, making them more vulnerable to the negative effects of uncontrolled movements. Our bodies work as a kinetic chain, meaning movement or lack of control in one area can directly affect another. With side leg lifts, if your core isn't engaged to stabilize your pelvis and spine, the movement won't be isolated to the hip abductors. Instead, your lower back might arch, or your pelvis might tilt significantly. This not only reduces the effectiveness of the exercise for the target muscles, but can also transfer undue stress to the lumbar spine and the sacroiliac joint, and indirectly create an unstable base from which the hip has to operate, potentially leading to compensatory strain within the hip joint itself. When it comes to exercises aimed at vulnerable joints like the hips, precision and control trump quantity or intensity every time. It's far better to do fewer repetitions with impeccable form, focusing on activating the correct muscles and maintaining pelvic stability, than to do many repetitions poorly. For the side leg lift, this means a smaller, controlled range of motion, keeping the pelvis still, and feeling the work in the side of the hip, not the back or front. This mindful approach is key to ensuring that your efforts to strengthen are truly building resilience, not contributing to wear and tear. Now let's turn our attention to a piece of equipment often found in gyms and even some senior fitness centers, the leg press machine. It's frequently recommended as a safer alternative to free weight squats for building leg strength because it provides back support and guides the movement. Many believe that because the motion is controlled by the machine, it inherently reduces the risk of injury. Seniors might be drawn to it because it feels stable and allows them to push significant weight, giving a sense of accomplishment and strength building. However, this perceived safety can be deceptive for hip health. The problem with many leg press machines, especially for individuals with existing hip sensitivity or specific anatomical variations, is that they often lock you into a fixed path of motion. This path may not align with your body's natural biomechanics, forcing your hips, knees, and ankles to move in a way that isn't ideal for them. If the seat position or foot placement isn't perfectly adjusted, or if the machine's design itself encourages excessive hip flexion with pelvic tilt, butt lifting off the seat, it can lead to impingement in the front of the hip or strain on the lower back, which in turn affects hip mechanics. One of the significant drawbacks of many exercise machines, including some leg presses, is the inherent lack of individualization. Unlike free weight exercises where your body dictates the movement path to a greater extent, machines often impose their path on you. For a senior with early hip arthritis, limited hip flexion, or other structural considerations, this fixed pattern can repeatedly stress sensitive areas. General instructions for machine use rarely account for these individual nuances, leading to a situation where an exercise intended to build strength might be subtly aggravating an underlying hip issue with every repetition. The feeling of stability on a leg press machine can sometimes tempt individuals to use more weight than they might with free weights, or to push through a range of motion that is too deep for their current hip capacity. Starting with too much load or progressing too quickly without ensuring the movement pattern is truly comfortable and non-irritating for the hips can be particularly detrimental. The hip joint, especially in seniors, benefits from gradual adaptation. Sudden increases in load or forcing the joint into deep flexion under heavy resistance on a machine can overwhelm its capacity to cope, leading to inflammation or accelerating degenerative changes. It's crucial to understand that even if you're using what feels like a lightweight on a machine, if the movement pattern is consistently awkward or unnatural for your hips, it can still cause problems over time. The repetitive nature of exercise means that even minor biomechanical flaws or mismatches between your body and the machine's design can accumulate. If there's an underlying, perhaps undiagnosed condition in your hip, like mild dysplasia or early labral fraying, a fixed-path machine might unknowingly exacerbate it, even if the exercise itself doesn't feel overtly strenuous in the moment. These three examples, improper squats, uncontrolled side leg lifts, and ill-fitting leg presses, illustrate a common theme. Well-intentioned efforts to stay active and strong can sometimes, through lack of specific knowledge or awareness, lead to unintended negative consequences for the hips. It's rarely a deliberate mistake, but rather a result of following generic advice that does not account for the unique needs and vulnerabilities of aging joints. The goal now is to shift from this pattern towards a more informed and joint-protective approach to exercise, focusing on what truly supports long-term hip health. Having identified some potential pitfalls, let's now shift our focus to a more positive and proactive stance. The intention here is absolutely not to discourage you from exercising or to make you fearful of movement. Quite the opposite. The goal is to empower you to exercise more intelligently and safely, particularly when it comes to preserving the health of your hips. Movement is life, especially as we age, but the quality and appropriateness of that movement are paramount for ensuring it remains a source of joy and independence, not pain and limitation. A fundamental principle for joint-friendly exercise is to listen to your body, but with a crucial addition: strive to understand what your body is truly telling you. Not all sensations are equal. The mild fatigue of a muscle working effectively is different from a sharp, pinching pain in a joint. A gentle stretch is beneficial. A movement that causes a clunk or deep ache that lingers is a warning sign. Learning to differentiate these signals is key. Pain, especially persistent joint pain during or after exercise, is rarely something to push through when it comes to long-term joint health. So, what are some general principles for safer hip exercise? Prioritize control over momentum in all movements. Often, a smaller, more controlled range of motion is far more beneficial and less risky than a large, uncontrolled one. Consider more closed-chain exercises, where your foot or hand is in contact with a stable surface, as these can sometimes be gentler on the joints. And crucially, always engage your core muscles. A strong, stable core provides essential support for the pelvis and hips, reducing undue strain during limb movements. Think quality over quantity every single time. While these general principles are helpful, nothing can replace the value of a professional consultation. If you have any concerns about your hips, or if you're unsure how to modify your exercise routine safely, please see a physical therapist or your doctor. A physical therapist can perform a thorough assessment of your hip health, identify specific movement patterns that might be problematic for you, and design a personalized exercise program that strengthens and supports your hips without causing further wear and tear. This individualized guidance is invaluable for long-term joint preservation. Think about prehabilitation. That is, proactive exercises designed to prevent problems before they start or to manage early signs of wear. This involves focusing on building stability around the hip joint, improving controlled mobility, not just flexibility, and specifically strengthening the key supporting muscles like the gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, and deep core stabilizers. These muscles act like a natural corset for your hips, absorbing shock and ensuring smooth, efficient movement. A program tailored to these aspects can make a world of difference in protecting your hips as you age. The information shared today is intended to arm you with the ability to ask better questions and make more informed decisions about your physical activity. You now have a framework for critically evaluating common exercises and understanding their potential impact on your hips. This doesn't mean you need to become an anatomy expert, but it does mean you can be a more active participant in discussions with healthcare providers or fitness instructors, advocating for approaches that truly prioritize your long-term joint health and promote an active, vibrant life for years to come. Your hips will thank you for it. Remember, the knowledge I've shared isn't to stop you from moving, but to help you move smarter. These 3 exercise types show how good intentions can sometimes lead us astray. The real key is personalization and correct guidance. If this video sparked an aha moment, please share it with other seniors, like it so more people see this message, and subscribe for more tips on aging with strength. Most importantly, if you have doubts about your routine or experience hip pain, please seek out a physical therapist. Your mobility and independence are worth that proactive care. Until next time, stay active and informed.